Russian man like inside the dark, call me Bill Snatcher. Just the brother for the rapture. I hang glide, holding on strong, hard to capture. Extravagant, resurrect the track and it's militant. And I react like a garden and start killing. It's manifesting. The God's work like appliances, dealing in my sleep like a lot.
Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto Naruto Next Generations discussion. And today, I wanted to address a topic that's been popping up in the community, at least by my eyes, a lot ever since Daemon revealed that it didn't matter how much stronger than Jigen Code actually was. Daemon was just that much stronger than him, and before Code left, Ada even confirmed to Code that if she deemed him to be a problem, that she would personally come out and kill him. The idea that a child like Daemon, who looks like he's the same age as Himawari, who at this point in the timeline is 11 years old, and a woman like Ada, who doesn't like to fight and can only use simple taijutsu, the idea that they can just walk up to our favorite beloved Hokage and just punch his head off has a lot of fans seething with anger and asking what can Naruto do to prevent himself from being turned into a human surfboard like Ishiki did to Sasuke. One response I've seen is that Naruto should just go and seal all the other Bijuu into his body to compensate for losing Kurama, and I want to weigh in on this topic. From the moment that Naruto lost Kurama and the anime did that absolutely gorgeous scene where Naruto and the tail beast said their goodbyes to Kurama as Kurama was going off into the afterlife, fans have been going through the 7 stages of grief. Now, to be completely transparent, I totally get it. Fans such as myself who grew up alongside Naruto when the manga was weekly, or fans that are watching the anime once everything became available online, Naruto was around for a chunk of your childhood, and in some cases, a lot of cases, your early adulthood. That's why Boruto episode 218 broke the hearts of so many people when Kurama died, especially the animators who worked on the episode, because a good chunk of them had been working on the Naruto franchise from the very first Naruto anime. Losing Kurama for a lot of people was like losing a loved one. Step 1 in this grieving process was the shock that came from hearing Kurama say that he was going to die and never come back to life due to how Baryon mode works. The news takes a while to settle in. Step 2 was the denial, the realization that something terrible had happened, but not being able to fully accept that what happened was actually real. Step 3 was the anger that fans felt, the frustration that in order for Naruto to set the stage to defeat someone as strong as Ishiki, he had to sacrifice Kurama's life in the process. The anger that came from looking back at the fight and realizing for the sacrifice that Naruto made, it wasn't enough to actually defeat Ishiki, but instead that sacrifice was just a bridge meant to be crossed in order to set the stage for Ishiki to be killed. Now we have step 4, which is where a large chunk of the fandom is currently at, which is the bargaining phase. Fans are currently looking for a way to soften the blow of Kurama's death in more than one way, from coming up with scenarios on how Kurama can be revived, how Naruto can just make a new Kurama out of the 10 tails despite not having the power of the creation of all things anymore, to coming up with the current suggestion that we have, which is Naruto can gain more power from having the other Bijuu sealed inside of him. The line of thinking is that if Naruto has the other 8 Bijuu sealed inside his body, he can return to the level that he was at. While it would be an absurd power increase, it won't be anywhere close to what he was at before. Before I explain that, I want to address one flaw in this line of thinking. In order to get all 8 Bijuu inside of Naruto, Naruto would also have to get the 8 tails. Do we really think that Naruto is going to be on some straight demon time, going to walk up to Killer Bee wearing a black skull cap, black Timberland boots, and holding a ninja weapon tool at Killer Bee and demand that Bee allow Konoha to extract the 8 tails from Killer Bee's body, which would result in Killer Bee's death, all to make Naruto stronger? No Jinchuriki survives extraction without death. Uzumaki can live for a short time afterwards, but eventually they'll die. For Naruto to get the 1 to the 7 tails sealed inside of him, he would have to track down all the tailed beasts, and he would have to ask them for the permission to be sealed within his body, because again, Naruto isn't going to force the Bijuu into his body against their will. The whole point of Naruto's Hokage and just Naruto's a Kage period is he's trying to break away from the way things were done in the past. Suggesting something like that is something that would have been done in the older eras. The Bijuu currently, with the exception of the One Tails who's being guarded by the Sand Village and the Eight Tails who is currently inside a Killer Bee, the Bijuu are roaming free for the first time in 1,000 years. Naruto is not going to want to take that freedom away from him. That freedom is something that quite a few cherish. They're not going to want to give up that freedom, and we've seen as much when Naruto tried something as simple as gathering them together in the sanctuary that Kurama oversaw, and some of the Bijuu even refused to meet Naruto during that time. It doesn't mean they didn't respect them. Episode 126 made that clear. We saw firsthand how Naruto was told that some of the Bijuu distrust humans, which they have every right to. Even if humans tell them this to protect them from an Otsutsuki level threat, they still don't trust them, but they do feel indebted to Naruto, and that is somewhat different for him. But we still saw how some of those Bijuu embraced their freedom more than showing up for a quick meeting with Naruto. However, all of that's irrelevant. Let's say Naruto does get the Bijuu to willingly seal themselves into Naruto's body. It's not going to make a difference. The gap in power between the Nine Tails and the other Bijuu is far too big to make a difference. One half of the Nine Tails was enough to push back the collective Bijuu Dama of 5 Bijuu. Naruto literally just lost both halves of the Kyuubi. That's a huge blow in terms of power. Sealing the collective 1 to 7 tails isn't gonna magically make Naruto relevant again from a power perspective. If the power of the Nine Tails Chakra Cloak being stacked on top of his 6-path Sage Mode wasn't enough to even beat Jigen, let alone even have a prayer's chance at stalemating Jigen, which, as a reminder, in the manga, Jigen rocked Naruto so hard with 2 direct hits that it knocked him out of his 6-path Chakra Mode. What good is getting 7 Bijuu who don't even amount to half of Kurama's chakra, let alone the power that he possessed with 6-path Sage Mode being amped by Kyuubi Chakra Cloak? What good is that going to do against people like Ada, Daemon, and Code, who are each stronger than Jigen himself? It's not going to do anything worth bragging about. If anything, if that happens and Naruto gets his head blown off, you're going to be even more upset. Narratively, this doesn't make any sense at all. Chapter 1 of Boruto literally had Boruto tell us that this is the story of me and my dad, but only at the start. We were specifically told at the start, and part 1 of Boruto is coming to a close. Anyone who's been reading the Boruto manga closely, you see the shift that's transpiring. Naruto has been sliding from co-main character status to being a support character, and Kawaki is being elevated to co-main character status. That doesn't mean Naruto is going away, but Boruto told you as much in chapter 1, which is where he said that because my dad is Hokage, he still plays a big role in my story. I can't help that because of who my dad is, but this is still my story. Naruto being in the role of a Kakashi who mixes it up every now and then, or very likely in my opinion where he takes on a role of somebody like Tsunade who serves as the authority figure and mentor that only steps in when it's a last option, like she did when she protected the bulk of the villagers from being killed by Pain's Shinra Tensei, and how she fought alongside the Kage against Madara. That's not the worst thing for Naruto's character. I get it. People want Naruto to return to God status, and for giggles, I will probably title the video God Naruto has been reborn, just to get giggles. But we're seeing Kawaki being elevated to co-main character status. You can't ignore that. Naruto losing Kurama, Sasuke losing the Rinnegan is forcing Team 7 to push through their limits because they have no choice but to do so. And Naruto, ironically, in chapter 58, accepted something that fans haven't accepted, which is that he accepts exactly where he is. He stated to the Kage in Boruto episode 24 that he believed, despite this being a time of peace, this new generation has the potential to surpass them. And in Boruto chapter 58, he made the gamble that Team 7, if given time, they can prove him correct. Naruto right now is in the same position that Tsunade was in, which is why you hear me repeatedly say this arc reminds me a lot of the Search for Tsunade arc, where once she took over as Hokage and was made aware of everything that was going on, that there were multiple characters well above the level of Kage and the Akatsuki who she had to worry about on top of worrying about Orochimaru. she bet on Naruto's generation to improve, which led to weak ninja like, say, Part 1 Sakura, who were stated to be barely gaining level, to being strong enough that they rivaled some of the elite Jonin in only 2.5 years worth of training. And then after nearly 1 more year after that, she jumped up several tiers again when her Byakugo seal was completed. We have 13-year-olds who are going on 14 who in some cases are doing stuff that their parents weren't doing until the 3rd act of the Naruto manga. Naruto saw this generation making a lot of crazy strides during peaceful times because their parents were able to devote everything into training their children. He's correctly betting that now that there is true pressure on this generation for the first time in their lives, they're going to prove his claim to the Kages correct, because just as his generation had to level up because of the Akatsuki, this new generation has no choice but to level up as well. Narratively, sealing the other Bijuu into Naruto makes no sense for this reason, on top of it being futile. I still stand by what I said when Kurama died. As Boruto's team reaches their peaks in power, you're likely gonna see off-screen power amps for Naruto the same way we saw Kakashi and Guy get one in the final arc, allowing them to fight alongside without being completely left behind until we reach the final boss status and Naruto and Sasuke reach their final forms. I think you're going to be in a similar situation here. Naruto's going to get a brief moment to shine, and he's going to be shoved right back to the support role. That being said, if you think the other 7 Bijuu being sealed inside of Naruto will make that much of a difference, I am so curious to hear from you. So please don't be shy down in the comment section.